is exactly to try and answer as many questions as possible. I hope you had time to have a look at the open call in terms of the guidelines, but also the documents that are needed. If you haven't, no problem, because we will try to go through them. And again, we are available for any questions you might have also after the call. So you will find also the email where to reach us in case. So let me just share some slides. Okay. And then I'm trying to see if I can. Is that the bar is hiding? Let me give me a second. Okay, do you see the slides? Okay, we should be it. Okay, perfect. So starting with the framing of this open call, you will see in the guidelines that there is some background information. We have tried to give kind of the broader perspective of what we are expecting and the type of organization and work we would like to fund. But here I've been trying to take like the kind of the extreme summary of what we are looking for. So we are, as part of our strategy for 2024-2028, Civitatis has decided to focus more on funding national level work. And as our general work is focused on supporting the enforcement of tech regulation, and especially the Digital Services Act, which is our main focus for this year. But we are also keeping it open to work on other regulation, on the enforcement of other regulation, when they have an impact on online public discourse, and when they address the question of how technology has an impact on information. So in the way that information is produced, the way it is spread, and the way it is consumed. And of course, because the overall objective of Civitatis as a fund is to strengthen and defend democracy, we consider a lot, especially how this has an impact directly on democracy. And especially, we wanted to flag some specific moments, which are elections, because those are part also of our objectives of the 4-year objective of Civitatis. In the sense of how online public discourse is particularly under stress during elections. So we consider this also we want to fund is to focus on enforcement of tech regulation and their impact on information and on online public discourse. Just let me say that, as I was saying, we're gonna leave a lot of space for Q&A at the end, but if at some point you want to raise something, please let me know. In terms of eligibility criteria, so what kind of organization can apply? So the call is open to register nonprofit organization. Here, I want to highlight that being registered in France and Ireland, which are the two country focus for this year, is not unnecessary. It's not a mandatory requirement. And also in exceptional circumstances, I will say, we consider also supporting the work of for-profit organization, but the type of work that they do needs to be no profit in nature, and also it needs to be no profit in practice also for the organization. So all the eventual profit needs to be reinvested in the organization. The second criteria that is important to flag is that we want to fund organizations that already have a track record of working at national level in France and or Ireland, because it is possible we accept also application for organizations that can work on both countries, but we will not accept organizations that are new in those countries and are thinking of developing in the future work. So we want organizations that are already present and active in those countries. The third criteria is, as I said, in terms of topic, this call is open both to organizations that are more explicitly focused on tech, so on tech regulation, on issues related to tech, or other, but also to organizations that might not have specifically a tech focus, but they are covering issues that are more related and more relevant to public discourse. So here there are just a couple of examples. It could be organizations that are focused on election integrity, on transparency, on mental health, on racial and gender discrimination, political polarization, hate speech, and so on. Final eligibility criteria is working in collaboration, so collaborating with coalitions on networks. This is just to flag that for us, it is very important that the work has an impact at national level along the broader field. So in that sense, it is, of course, organizations that don't collaborate with other stakeholders for us would not be eligible for funding. Just to give you an overview in terms of the funding available, for this open call, we have a total budget of €1 million. The proposal we accept are up to 200,000 for each organization and for a length of 2 years. What we expect to give is probably between 5 and 6 grants, and we're not splitting between the two countries in the sense that we are not setting a defined number for France and Ireland, but it will all depend on the type of proposal that we receive, the amount of proposal, and so on. The type of grants that Civitates give is core support, which means that what we are interested in funding is not project, but is to fund organization, especially in terms of staff cost, in terms of activity cost, and coalition costs. So what we will see in terms of the proposal will be a request for the organization to try and define what is their strategy and what is their approach. And then we will see a little bit in detail what it's asked for the application. But just to give you an idea, what we want is to support the structure more than looking for single projects. It is also possible for coalitions to apply. If a coalition wants to apply, we need a lead applicant. So there is one organization that will that has to fill in the, that has to complete the application, and also that will have to go through the due diligence process. And it is possible to regrant to other organizations. You will see in the documentation that there is an annex that is specifically dedicated to that, because when we talk about regranting, there are some rules that apply that are connected to, that are decided by the Network of European Foundation, which is hosting Civitates. I leave it to Sam to cover what are the required documents.
So for the required document that needs to be part of the application, so we require you to have a narrative proposal. We provide the templates for it on the platform where you'll be applying, and we will be discussing and presenting this platform a little bit later in this presentation. Then a budget proposal for the 2 years, which will include parts on your incomes as well as your expected expenses for the 2 years. We have a due diligence questionnaire because we will be running a due diligence on the lead organization, and as well as any partner which will be receiving more than 30,000 euro of regranting as part of a coalition. And this due diligence questionnaire, it will allow us to understand how does your company, your organization function, what are the procedures inside, and get to know you a bit better. For the financial due diligence that we've been running, we would like to have at least 3 annual financial reports of the organization, so 2021, 2022, and 2023, and the operating budget of 2024. If you can also get then we would need to also have the registration document. be the legal document that says that you are a non-profit or that shows that you are a for-profit, which you invest the surplus into the company. And then finally, we would like to have the CVs of the leadership team. Back to you. Okay, so the next is the platform. So you'll be applying through the portal that the Network of European Foundation, which hosts this Civitatis, uses to submit application. It's the link, you can find the link in the page on the website where the call for proposal is described. The application is pretty straightforward. You just need to fill in the information. We will invite you to reread the project very carefully before submitting it, ensuring that all the annexes document have been uploaded, and then you can resubmit your application and reopen it anytime you want before the deadline, basically.
Thanks.
Up to you.
Okay, so now talking about the evaluation criteria, as you will see, those criteria correspond more or less to the sections that are part of the application template that you can download from the page. So the first thing that applicants are asked to do is to give their assessment of the possible threats, like the possible threats and opportunities connected to the enforcement of the Digital Services Act in their country of reference. So whether you're thinking of applying for one country or for both countries. Yes, to kind of give their evaluation of what could be done in those countries. The second is about your track record. So it is to develop what kind of work you've been doing at national level. And here, let me also reinforce that because it is open to both organizations that are tech focused and organization focused on other issues, you can include issues that are not directly connected to tech, but as long as they are relevant for the question of the public discourse or how information is spread, or the question of election and public debate, online debate, and so on. In terms of the third part, your purpose, approach, and scale. So in this case, applicants are asked to discuss what they want to achieve. Again, here we are looking more for what is your strategy, what is your approach, more than a specific project. Also to highlight that in the guidelines, because we are talking about what is DSA, what is DSA and tech regulation enforcement, we have been trying to give a series of examples of activities that we consider part of enforcement, but this list is just a list of examples and not more. So feel free to include more or different, depending on what is your focus, what is the focus of your organization, but also what you think it's more relevant at the national level for the country you're working in. The fourth point, and also what will be evaluated, is in terms of the type of partner and connection you have, which means trying to discuss and explain who will be your partner in civil society, but also in terms of other stakeholders you might want to target, whether you're talking about public administration, about the government, or if you're talking about companies, for example. Those are also included. Fifth point is your needs. So here we ask you to explain basically what difference the support that Civitatis could give you would make for your work. So is it to strengthen the organization? Is it to expand it? Is it to refocus? And so on. And final point, we have a point on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I've highlighted in red, because compared to the other, it will not be part per se of the criteria. This is because as Civitatis, we are still working on our approach on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we are, of course, committed to these principles, But in order to develop a proper approach, we need time, basically. So what we are doing here is trying to have surface how are you thinking about it? So also we can adapt the type of support that we can give you to the field and the organization, especially that we will support. Maybe I'll stop here. Is there any question on this part? Because I know that is quite dense. It's about all the content. Otherwise, we have another slides about timeline, and I can leave to questions. Okay, then I'll finish with the last slide, which is about the timeline. So we have launched the open call last week on the 1st of July. The call is going to be open, so we accept application until the 9th of September. During October, so in September, we will start to review the application we will receive, and in October, we might contact some of you if we need some clarification. Those clarification could be about the proposal per se, but also it could be about the due diligence questionnaire that you have to fill in. So if there's anything missing, or if it's something that we feel it's important to clarify, we might reach out to you. So in mid-November, there will be a meeting of the selection committee. So the selection committee is made by representatives of Civitatis, so of foundations that are supporting Civitatis. And we didn't do a proper introduction about Civitatis, but if it's needed, Civitatis is a pooled fund. So that is made now of more than 20 philanthropic foundations, European and international. And so the decision about grant making are made collectively by those foundations. So in that sense, we as the Secretariat of Civitatis, we work on preparing this, but the final decision is up to the selection committee of the Tech and Democracy Subfund. By end of November, the idea is we will announce the results. Please know that we might not be in the position of give feedbacks to all the applicants. So we might give to the shortlisted one, but we realistically, for problems of capacity, we will not be able to provide detailed feedbacks to everyone. Between end of November and December, the organization that was selected will receive the contract, because the idea is to start on the 1st of January of 2025 with, as I was saying, a 2-year contract. Also to say that Civitatis works in as what we call the cohort approach. So the idea is that in those 2 years, those groups of organization that will be selected, we will try to kind of support them in different ways, which means on organizing, convening to get together, providing additional funding, creating connection with other foundations that are part of Civitatis, and so on. So the idea is also of having a 2-year is also to try and align with these cohorts. I'll stop here and I leave space for any questions or comment or doubt you might have. And feel free to type them. Here an echo. Just to say that feel free to also to use the chat if you prefer, or otherwise to unmute yourself. And there should be also like a raise hand function hidden somewhere. I think it's under reaction possibly. So with Zoom is a little bit more complicated.
Yes, maybe I can start. Claudio, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. Hi, Fanny.
Thanks for the presentation. I was pleasantly surprised to see the link that you're making with them. I saw it in the strategy, or maybe I missed something. Can you maybe explain a little bit the link you make between tech democracy and mental health? The thinking behind
I'm sorry, I missed.
You.
You were breaking up, so I missed the center of the question.
You did.
Funny?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Hi.
The connection is pretty bad. No, I was just wondering, I saw I was pleasantly surprised to see the link you're making between mental health and tech and democracy. I was wondering if that was also part of the overall strategy, or maybe if you can tell a bit, I mean, some words about the link that you see there.
In this, I think the most direct connection we found was on the working on social media, especially. So as the Digital Services Act in its role wants to look at what are the systemic risk of platforms, and those include also social media. One of the things we have thought to flag, it is of course that one of the things that is needed is to look at what are the risks of I mean, the online public discourse for how it is right now on mental health. So in that sense, when we are saying that it is open to organizations that are bringing that expertise, it is on that sense of how can the Digital Services Act might help us to understand what is the impact of social media, for example, on mental health. So this is an example. And instead of mental health, exactly, we can change it with election integrity. So again, how do we use this regulation? And again, I'm saying Digital Services Act, but it could be also the other regulation, the other EU regulation that were approved in the cycle. How do we use them so that we improve the online environment? How do we improve social media and public discourse, for example? So this is like the reference that we put there.
Okay, thanks.
Claudio, if you don't mind me jumping in, because you touched on a question that I thought I would not ask because it seemed it was not the case, but it seems maybe it is the case. I was curious about the DMA, but so I think you just answered, but just to push on this. Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, it can be included. For us, it is, of course, DMA because it can cover everything. It needs to be narrowed down or like specifically more focused on having an impact on public discourse and information on this.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing two questions. The first one is from Liz on, can newer organization why might not have 3 years of financial returns apply? And I'll leave it to Sam to answer this.
Yes, it is possible for Civitatis to finance organizations who have less than 3 years of financial returns. We will be needing the latest operational budget. We would be needing to have a bit of an outlook on what would be your income for the grants and send us the financial reports which you have, basically. So if it's not 3, if it's 1 or 2, then that's fine. If you are selected, we would be we may ask you for additional documentation to just make sure that you will be able to operate, basically, while having the funding. There is another question which I can take from the chat, which is, do we need to have other source of funding? Is there an obligation of co-financing? No, there is no obligation of co-financing. It is possible for a new organization to apply, but there needs to be a really good reason, a really good rationale as to why this organization, who has 0 budget before and may have been run by volunteers, wants to set up, become official, and have a Civitatis grant, basically.
And to add on this, the rationale behind this, it is, we also recognize that, of course, it is a new field. So, of course, there is a need for additional resources that might be difficult, but also because we have this cohort approach. And so we want this to support this organization in the long term. And we want to have many organizations for each country. In that sense, we need organizations that are already on a track for on sustainability in that sense. So where they have already found their space in that sense. I think there's a question in the chat, and then we can move to Marta. Could you share some example of the SA investigation you mentioned? What do you mean that I mentioned? Sorry, Adrian, I don't get the reference. Just to be specific. But if you can unmute yourself, maybe what I will say. Okay, what I will say is that yes, like type of research work and investigation work is very welcome, and we consider it as part of enforcement. But again, what we want applicants to think is how this would make an impact and how this will make a change. So for us, it is we're not interested in funding the project that is focused on general investigation just to get to know more about, let's say, social media, for example. So for us, it needs to be on what do you think are concretely the challenges and the problems in France or in Ireland on this, and on this use either investigation, research. Other example of things we said is, for example, using the transparency, the transparency, DSA transparency register is on. There's a very long list of activities that we put there. So in this, we keep what we define as DSA enforcement and enforcement in general quite broad. I don't know, Aidan.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Do you have any follow-up on this, or do you need more?
That's fine. Thank you.
You're breaking up, but I'm thinking you're okay. In case you can write in chat. Marta.
Hi everyone. It's actually a follow-up or clarification from my question in the chat. I was referring specifically to co-financing to the project and not having additional sources of our institutional budget, let's say of the organization as a whole, but to the project specifically. So up to the 200,000 euro, if there's a need for a contribution from our own resources to that project. I understand it's not. I can see Sam nodding. So just a clarification on that. Thank you.
No, again, formally, just to answer, there's no need of a formal co-funding in that sense. And also that space of your need is also a space to explain why you need these resources, what kind of additional support you might need, and so on. So for us, it's also important to understand what realistically you think you can achieve.
Okay, thank you so much.
Anna.
Hi, thanks so much. I wanted to ask if the work needs to be specifically related to elections, or if the sort of broader online public discourse piece is acceptable, or like, are you looking more for organizations working specifically around elections?
No, it doesn't have to be specifically focused on election. For us, what is important is the connection with democracy. And also in recognition that in many cases, organizations are already doing work that when they touch on public discourse, it is connected to elections. So in that sense, we just wanted to highlight this connection, but it's not necessary. I wouldn't say it's even something that will give you an advantage per se. So no. And Felix.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much. My question was whether you would welcome any national strategy that will have a European component or leg or extension.
If it's
how to
part,
influence back the debate, yeah.
Yes, definitely. So of course, we consider very relevant and important that national level organizations are thinking about connection with the EU level, both in terms of partners, but also in terms of strategy. Because of course, we are talking about enforcement of EU tech regulation. But I want to highlight and reinforce that the way we will select and the way we evaluate will consider a lot how this type of work will develop at national level, but very welcome to include consideration about working in the impact of the EU level or working with other organizations on how your work might be replicated somewhere. All of this, of course, are extremely relevant points.
Great, thanks.
Then the question, Molly, how necessary is it that proposal advocate for specific policies? Can you develop a little bit the question? So I'm sure
Yeah,
I
I was
get it.
curious. Do the proposals need to be advocating for certain legislative or regulatory changes, or are proposals that are more focused on evaluation or surveying existing resources, are those also acceptable?
No, you don't have to advocate for new regulation. So the sense, when we talk about enforcement of tech regulation at national level, for us, it means making them work, basically. So, and this could be in the sense of evaluating them. It could be in the sense of promoting specific setup, institutional setup. So for example, how the digital services coordinator will be set up or are being set up in the countries. It can be also on targeting other regulation or other legislation that might interfere with the EU tech regulation, but it can also be on other things. So you don't have to advocate for new regulation, if that's the question. And also, I wanted to recognize that we are really sorry about the timeline, because we know that it is not ideal that is in the middle of summer. So we have tried to extend it as much as possible and to start as soon as we could, administratively speaking. So if you're struggling in terms of time, please reach out, please let us know. But we had to keep those deadline because as you've seen, there is quite a long process in terms of reviewing the application, but also to work on the due diligence. Another question. So can you clarify what is expected in terms of reporting and budget, given that this is core funding? In particular, will it be necessary to justify your expenses relating to the project set out in the application, or is there some flexibility? Sam, can I leave it to you, this?
Yes. So in terms of reporting, so to first have a question, in terms of reporting, you will be expected to provide midterm reports and final reports. And the midterm report would be attached with a payment, so we will be requiring a financial report for this. And then the final report to be attached with a financial payment to give you the last part of the grant. So there'll be 3 sets of payments throughout the whole grant. In particular, it will be necessary for you to indeed justify of the expenses that you will be declaring in your financial report. However, we are quite flexible in terms of we understand that while the project is implementing, things evolve. So it is possible for you to change the amount from what you have presented in your proposal by presenting us with a new budget and getting the approval of the program manager. The rule exactly is that if your grant is more than 100,000 euro, you are allowed a leeway of 10,000 euro difference between a 10%, sorry, difference between a budget category, and then above that you will have to ask us for approval. If your grant is less than 100,000 euro, then you have a leeway of about 20%. So that's the rule for Civitatis grantees.
Also, let me add 2 things on this. So the first one is that unfortunately, because of the network of European Foundation rules, the last payment will be after the end of the grant. So what we try to do is to keep a small percentage of the grant, but for the end, so when we receive the final report, then and it is approved, you will receive the final installment. So we try to keep it to 10% usually. Unfortunately, this is a rule that is applied to all the projects in NEF. So the idea is to try to give you as much as possible in the previous installment. The second thing that I wanted to mention is also that we are doing internal work in the sense of revising the type of reporting requirement we ask to our grantees. So already this year for our grantees, we have switched the midterm report with some midterm calls in order to simplify it, in order to make it less burdensome. So At the moment, what we can say is what Sam has explained, but the idea is to potentially make it more simple, definitely it will not get more complicated than this. So we will try to make it easier for you to do the reporting. Okay, and maybe I want to flag also in the guidelines, you will see that there are 2 annexes. So one is also talking about what are the additional funding that might be available. So there is one specific that I just to share with you. It is the Learning and Wellness Initiative, which is additional support that we give to all of our grantees. So basically, it is at the moment it is 5,000 a year that we give to organization, either to strengthen their learning process, which could be, for example, attending conferences, organizing events, or, for example, connect with other organizations or paying courses and so on, or more focus on the wellness of the team, which could be on organizing, let's say, retreat or giving support to people that might be at risk of burnout, running burnout prevention courses, or give additional leave to team members that might need it. So you will find this information. So have a look. I think it's also important to have a look because maybe you will have it in mind as something that can be additionally included during the grant period. Okay, I think there are no questions at this stage. But again, if you haven't read the guidelines, please do it. And if you have questions, let us know. As Sam was saying, the recording of the session will be online, so you will find everything. And I think, Sam, you will also send the slides, right? So you will receive via email both the recording and the slides, where the slides are just a summary of everything that is in the guidelines. So everything is there and also expanded. And again, feel free to reach out if you have further questions. And thanks a lot. Really looking forward to read your application. And yes, for the rest, enjoy the rest of the summer.
Many thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.